Okay, let's talk about muscle cramps. I mean, most of us think we've got it figured out, right?
Yeah, the usual suspect is dehydration. Sweating too much, didn't drink enough water. Seems simple.
Exactly. But what we're looking at today suggests that common idea is often plain wrong.
It really is. There's so much more going on beneath the surface than just needing a drink.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack what's really causing those cramps.
We'll look at the different types, because yes, there are different types and how you need different fixes.
And how to prevent them effectively. Plus, and this is crucial, when a cramp might be your body waving a red flag, signaling something more serious.
Right. Based on the fascinating insights we've been digging into, we'll even touch on some surprising things.
Like how gulping down more water can sometimes backfire.
Exactly. And this kind of hidden mineral war happening inside your muscles. It's microscopic, but it's key.
Okay, let's start with that big one. Cramps equals dehydration.
Right, the standard advice. Well, let's look at that example of Sarah. It really challenges that idea head on.
Yeah, her story was striking. She was drinking 3, then even 4 liters of water a day, eating well, exercising.
Doing everything right, supposedly. Yet her cramps were severe, waking her up at 2 a.m., calves, hamstrings, even her hands cramping up.
So what was going on? Why did drinking more water make things worse for her?
Well, this is where the simple dehydration cramps idea falls apart. When you drink huge amounts of plain water, especially without replacing salts, you lose naturally.
You dilute everything.
Precisely. You dilute your blood sodium levels. It's a condition called hyponatremia. And ironically, that imbalance can actually trigger muscle cramps.
So the very thing she thought was the cure was actually contributing to the problem. It unbalanced her system.
Exactly. And that's why a proper medical approach, as outlined in what we reviewed, is systematic. It looks way beyond just hydration.
They check electrolyte levels, nerve function, medications you might be taking, your activity patterns.
Right, because they understand cramps aren't a single thing. Which brings us to the different types of cramps.
It's not just one kind of muscle spasm happening.
Not at all. That's a key point. They break it down into 3 distinct categories. First, there are true muscle cramps.
Okay, what are those?
These are the ones most people know. Sudden, involuntary tightening of a single muscle or maybe a group, often linked to nerves being a bit too excitable.
Like after exercise or that Charlie horse in the night.
Exactly. They usually respond well to stretching and only last a few minutes.
Got it. Type 1. True cramps. What's next?
Then you have dystonic cramps. These are different. They involve multiple muscles contracting at the same time, and the contractions are sustained. They last longer.
Multiple muscles, longer lasting. Where do these usually happen?
Often in the hands, feet, sometimes the face. And the cause is different too. It's usually abnormal nerve signals coming from the brain or spinal cord.
Okay, so more related to central nervous system signals. That sounds more complex.
It is. And the third type is tetany. This involves widespread muscle spasms all over.
Widespread? What causes that?
It's caused by low calcium levels in the blood. So it's not really about a specific nerve firing wrong. It's a systemic issue affecting how easily all muscles get excited.
So true cramps, dystonic cramps, and tetany. 3 really different mechanisms.
Absolutely. And that just hammers home the point. You can't treat them all the same way. Drink more water isn't going to fix low calcium or a nerve signaling issue.
The treatment has to match the specific cause.
Precisely. Which means we need to understand why these things happen at the muscle level. This brings us to that invisible mineral war.
It sounds dramatic, but you said it's accurate.
It really is a good way to visualize it. Inside your muscle cells, you've got 4 key minerals constantly interacting. They manage the whole electrical and chemical dance of contraction and relaxation.
And those are sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium.
Those are the big 4. Their balance, the ratio between them, is absolutely critical for normal muscle function.
Okay, break it down for us. What are their jobs in this?
Think of sodium as the main electrical conductor. It helps generate the nerve impulse, the signal that tells the muscle, okay, contract now.
So it starts the process. What if sodium is low?
Then the signal is weak or erratic, like trying to start a car with a weak battery. You get sputtering, maybe nothing.
Okay, sodium is the spark. What about potassium?
Potassium is kind of the relaxation manager. Think of it like the brake pedal. After the muscle contracts, potassium steps in to help it return to its resting state to relax.
So if potassium is low,
the muscle struggles to get the stop contracting message. It has trouble relaxing properly after firing.
Sodium starts it, potassium stops it. Magnesium's role.
Magnesium is like the master regulator or maybe the bouncer at the club door. Its main job is controlling how much calcium gets into the muscle cell.
It controls calcium entry. Why is that important?
Because calcium is the final trigger for the contraction itself. But you don't want too much flooding in uncontrollably. Magnesium acts like a gatekeeper.
And if magnesium is low,
The bouncer's gone. Too much calcium can flood in, overwhelming the system and causing those prolonged painful spasms because the muscle can't shut off.
so magnesium prevents calcium overload and calcium itself.
Calcium is essential. It rushes into the muscle fibers to make the contraction happen. You need enough for muscles to work, but too much without magnesium keeping it in check leads straight to cramps. Too little calcium, of course, also causes problems, like with tetany.
It really is a delicate balancing act between all four.
Absolutely. The ratios are key.
And you mentioned that our modern diets often mess up this balance.
Unfortunately, yes, food processing often strips out vital minerals. Even farming practices over time have depleted minerals from the soil, so the food itself might have less.
So even if you're eating fruits and vegetables,
They might not be as mineral-rich as they were generations ago. Plus, the typical Western diet tends to be overloaded with sodium from processed foods, while being low in potassium, magnesium, and easily absorbed calcium.
that throws the ratios way off.
Way off. And there was that specific point about certain medications, too. Particularly diuretics, often used for blood pressure. They make you urinate more, which is the point, but they can also flush out essential minerals like potassium and magnesium along with the water.
Creating a deficiency that you might not even realize is linked to your cramps.
Exactly. It's a hidden factor for many people.
And this ties into the idea of relative deficiency. It's not just about the total amount of each mineral.
That's a critical concept. The balance between them often matters more than the absolute number. You might have technically enough calcium, according to a basic test.
But if your magnesium is too low to regulate it,
You can still get cramps. Or if your sodium intake is sky high from processed foods, it can overwhelm the potassium you are getting, disrupting that crucial sodium-potassium pump action.
okay, so getting these minerals is vital. Let's talk practicalities. What are some top food sources for each?
For potassium, bananas are famous, about 420 milligrams. But a baked potato with skin has even more, around 540 milligrams. Avocados are great too.
Potatoes more than bananas. Interesting. Magnesium?
Almonds are good, maybe 75 milligrams per ounce. But pumpkin seeds are powerhouses, about 150 milligrams per ounce. Dark leafy greens like spinach are also excellent sources.
Pumpkin seeds? Okay. And calcium, besides dairy.
Sardines, especially with the bones, are fantastic. Sesame seeds, tahini, and many plant-based milks are fortified with calcium now.
What about sodium? Should we avoid it?
Not entirely, you need some, but get it from less processed sources. Good quality sea salt instead of table salt, or naturally from foods like celery. The issue is usually excess sodium from processed stuff.
And why are food sources generally better than just popping a supplement pill?
Foods provide minerals in complex forms, often with cofactors that help your body absorb and use them properly. The balance is usually better in whole foods. Supplements can sometimes give you too much of one thing or a form that's hard to absorb, potentially making imbalances worse.
Makes sense. Nature's packaging. Now, there was a quick tip mentioned for immediate cramp relief using salt.
Ah, yes, the sea salt under the tongue trick. For a sudden cramp, especially if you suspect sodium depletion might be a factor, placing a small pinch of high-quality sea salt under your tongue can help.
How does that work so fast?
It gets absorbed directly into the bloodstream through the membranes there, bypassing the digestive system. It can help restore sodium balance relatively quickly, maybe within a couple of minutes, potentially easing the cramp by restoring nerve signal function.
That's a neat emergency trick. But overall, individual needs for these minerals vary a lot.
Hugely. Your age, how active you are, any medications you're on, underlying health conditions, they all play a role in your specific mineral requirements and how your body handles them. It's definitely not one size fits all.
Let's talk about age. Around 40, things start to change, don't they? Affecting muscles and cramp risk.
They do. There are subtle, invisible physical shifts. One key change is in the efficiency of those sodium-potassium pumps we mentioned earlier, the ones in your muscle cell membranes.
They become less efficient.
Yeah, they don't work quite as well at maintaining that perfect electrical gradient across the cell membrane. This makes the muscle cells a bit more electrically unstable.
More prone to firing randomly. faulty wiring causing shorts.
That's a great analogy. It increases the risk of spontaneous involuntary contractions cramps. At the same time, your circulatory system changes too.
How so?
Smaller blood vessels can become a bit less flexible, and the heart might pump with slightly less force over time.
And the impact on muscles is?
Reduced blood flow. That means less oxygen and fewer nutrients getting to the muscles when they're working, and slower removal of waste products like lactic acid.
So muscles fatigue faster, recover slower.
And become more susceptible to cramping. It's kind of a double hit, less stable electrical function, and poorer supply lines and waste removal.
Does being sedentary make this worse?
Absolutely. A sedentary lifestyle speeds up these age-related declines significantly. Muscles adapt to what you ask them to do. If you don't ask much, the pumps become less efficient, circulation slows down, regular movement keeps everything tuned up.
And common health conditions that pop up in middle age can add to the problem.
Definitely. Diabetes is a big one. It can damage the small nerves that control muscles, messing up the signals.
So nerve damage and circulation issues from diabetes.
Yes, it often affects blood vessels too, further reducing circulation, so it compounds the problem from multiple angles.
What about pregnancy? That increases cramp risk too, right?
Pregnancy is a perfect example of multiple factors piling up. First, blood volume increases a lot, which can dilute electrolytes like sodium.
Dilution again.
Right. Plus, the growing baby needs calcium and magnesium, often drawing heavily on the mother's stores. And then there's the physical pressure.
The uterus pressing on things.
Exactly. It can compress blood vessels and nerves going to the legs, reducing circulation and potentially irritating nerves, leading to cramps.
It really shows how everything's connected. But the good news is, targeted exercise can help combat some age-related changes.
Yes, absolutely. Things like swimming or walking are great low-impact ways to boost circulation. Resistance training helps keep those muscle cells firing and maintains the efficiency of the sodium-potassium pumps.
And stretching is key too.
Crucial. Dynamic stretching before activity warms things up. Static stretching after helps muscles relax and prevents tightness.
What about for people over 50? Any specific recommendations?
Gentle yoga or tai chi are often highlighted. They combine stretching, strengthening, balance work, and controlled movements. This really helps improve that nerve-muscle communication and boost circulation, which can be particularly beneficial as we get older.
So prevention strategies need to adapt as we age.
For sure. Someone in their 40s might focus on maintaining vigorous exercise and managing early signs of health issues. Someone over 60 might prioritize gentler movement and pay closer attention to electrolytes, especially if they're on medications that affect mineral balance.
Okay, that's prevention. But what about when a cramp hits you right now? Those first 30 seconds are critical.
They really are. What you do immediately can make the difference between a few seconds of pain and several minutes. But our instinct is often wrong.
What's the wrong move people make?
The natural reaction is to freeze, tense up, maybe grab the cramping muscle and curl around it protectively. If your calf cramps, you want to bend your knee, grab it tight.
Yeah, that feels instinctive.
But it actually traps the muscle in that contracted state. It prolongs the spasm and the pain.
So the counterintuitive correct first step is?
Stop whatever you're doing immediately, and then gently, carefully, start stretching the affected muscle in the opposite direction of the cramp.
Opposite direction. Even though it's already tight and painful.
Exactly. It feels wrong, but there's solid physiology behind it.
What's the science there? Why does stretching work?
It triggers something called the inverse stretch reflex. Inside your tendons, you have sensors called Golgi tendon organs. When they detect extreme tension, like a muscle contracting really hard in a cramp, they send an emergency signal up to your spinal cord.
An emergency signal.
Yeah, basically saying, whoa, this muscle is contracting dangerously hard, potential for injury. The spinal cord then immediately sends a command back, telling that muscle to relax, to let go, as a protective measure.
So by stretching, you're activating your body's own safety switch to shut down the spasm.
Precisely. You're leveraging a natural reflex.
What are the specific stretches recommended for common cramps, like calves or hamstrings?
For a calf cramp, if you can, stand up, put weight on that leg, keep the knee straight, and press your heel firmly down into the floor. Or sit down, extend your leg, loop a towel around your foot, and gently pull your toes back towards your shin.
Heel down or toes towards shin.
Yeah.
Got it. Hamstrings.
Lie on your back, keep the cramping leg straight, knee locked. Raise the leg up towards the ceiling and use your hands or a towel behind the thigh or calf to gently pull it towards your chest. Keep that knee straight.
Okay, initial stretch first. What comes next?
Gentle massage can help. Apply firm, steady pressure along the length of the muscle, maybe working from the center outwards. This helps increase blood flow and manually encourages the muscle fibers to relax. A tennis ball or foam roller can be great for this on larger muscles.
Massage for blood flow. What about heat or ice?
It depends. Use heat like a warm towel, heating pad, or warm bath if the cramp feels like it's due to general tightness or maybe poor circulation. Heat relaxes muscle fibers and increases blood flow.
And ice.
Use ice if the cramp comes with noticeable swelling or inflammation, which might happen after intense exercise or a minor injury causing the cramp. Ice reduces inflammation and numbs the pain signals.
Okay, heat for tightness, ice for inflammation. There was an advanced technique mentioned too.
Yeah, contract relax stretching. After you do the initial gentle stretch, you carefully try to contract the cramping muscle against the stretch for about 5 seconds. Don't let it actually shorten, just tense it. Then relax fully and deepen the stretch slightly.
Tense against the stretch, then relax further.
Right. It uses neurological principles to achieve an even deeper relaxation.
It sounds like the most important thing is knowing these steps before a cramp happens. Trying to remember this stuff mid-spasm sounds difficult.
Absolutely. Practice the stretches for your common cramp spots when you're not cramping. Have your plan ready, because clear thinking is tough when you're in significant pain.
Definitely. Now, while most cramps are benign, just painful annoyances, we need to talk about the red flags. When is a cramp more than just a cramp?
That's a critical distinction. Your typical harmless cramp usually happens after exertion, maybe dehydration, maybe at night. It responds pretty well to stretching and rest, lasts minutes, affects the muscles you used, and goes away completely, leaving no weakness.
Predictable triggers, predictable relief.
Exactly. But a surprising number of people, maybe around 40%, according to some findings, tend to ignore recurring cramps that actually signal an underlying issue needing medical attention.
Delaying diagnosis and treatment for potentially serious things.
Right. So we need to know the specific warning signs.
What are those red flags?
Okay, first, severe pain that just doesn't ease up with gentle stretching within, say, 5-10 minutes. Second, visible changes around the cramping area, swelling, redness, warmth, or skin discoloration. That suggests inflammation, infection, or maybe a circulation problem like a clot.
Swelling and redness are big ones. What else?
Muscle weakness that lingers after the cramp itself has passed. The pain might go, but the muscle feels unusually weak or heavy. That could point towards nerve damage or a metabolic issue.
Lingering weakness, that's important.
Also, frequent cramps that happen with no obvious reason. Not after exercise, not when you're dehydrated, they just keep happening. And finally, cramps that consistently last for a very long time, more than several minutes, resisting those normal relaxation mechanisms.
So, severe pain, visual changes, lasting weakness, no trigger, or lasting too long. These could indicate something serious.
They could. Things like peripheral artery disease, where narrowed arteries reduce blood flow and oxygen to the muscles. Or nerve compression, maybe from a spinal issue like stenosis. Even metabolic disorders affecting thyroid or kidney function can manifest as cramps.
How would a doctor investigate if you present with these red flags?
They'd likely start with a thorough history and physical exam. Then, depending on suspicions, blood tests are key checking electrolytes, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, kidney function, thyroid hormones.
Looking for those imbalances or systemic issues?
Exactly. They might do nerve conduction studies to see how well nerve signals are traveling, or imaging or tests to assess blood circulation in the limbs.
And if they find an underlying cause, what are the treatments?
It depends entirely on the cause, of course. But for severe, persistent cramping itself, treatments might include prescription muscle relaxants, medications that calm nerve excitability like gabapentin or pregabalin, specific physical therapy programs, or sometimes even nerve blocks.
Okay, so let's summarize the criteria for seeking medical help. When should you definitely see a doctor?
If your cramps consistently don't respond to stretching within about 10 minutes, if they happen frequently, say more than twice a week, without a clear trigger like exercise, if you see that swelling, redness, or skin changes, or if you experience that persistent muscle weakness or numbness after the cramp resolves.
And for the occasional predictable cramp that goes away with stretching.
For those, self-care measures like stretching, hydration, and maybe looking at your mineral intake are usually appropriate, but know those red flags.
Recognizing the difference is key. Now let's circle back to prevention. You stressed it needs to be a complete system.
Yes, it's not just about doing one thing right. It's about coordinating several factors. Your diet, your exercise habits, sleep, lifestyle, managing health conditions, Relying only on hydration, for example, isn't enough.
So let's build that system. Hydration strategy first. What are the specifics?
It's about timing and type. Drink about 16-20 ounces, say, 2 hours before you exercise. During exercise, sip regularly, maybe 7-10 ounces every 20 minutes or so. Afterwards, you need to replace what you lost aim for about 150% of the fluid weight you sweated out.
And plain water versus electrolytes.
Plain water is generally fine for activities under an hour, but if you're exercising longer or heavily in the heat, you need to replace electrolytes too. Sports drinks, electrolyte tabs, or even natural sources like coconut water can help.
And remember the warning about overhydrating with plain water.
Definitely. Don't just chug gallons of water without electrolytes, or you risk that dilution effect hyponatremia. Monitoring urine color is a simple guide. Pale yellow is good hydration. Clear might mean you're overdoing the plain water. Dark yellow means you need to drink more.
Okay, hydration strategy. Check. Dietary approach.
Focus on consistently including those mineral-rich foods we discuss daily. Don't just eat a banana after you get a cramp. Make potassium sources like potatoes, avocados, bananas regular parts of your meals. Same for magnesium from nuts, seeds, leafy greens. Ensure adequate calcium and moderate sodium from whole foods. Consistency builds stable levels.
Daily intake for stable levels.
Got it.
What about the stretching protocol at 3 phases?
Yes. Phase 1. Dynamic stretches before exercise. These are active movements like leg swings, arm circles, walking lunges. They warm up the muscles, increase blood flow, and improve range of motion, preparing them for work.
Dynamic before. What about after?
Phase 2. Static stretches after exercise. This is holding stretches for 15-30 seconds for major muscle groups like calves, hamstrings, quads. This helps them return to their normal resting length and can prevent that post-exercise tightness that leads to cramps later.
Now the third phase, for nighttime cramps.
Phase 3. Bedtime stretches. If you're prone to night cramps, doing some gentle stretching 15-20 minutes before bed can make a big difference. Focus on calves, hamstrings, maybe some gentle ankle rotations to relieve tension built up during the day.
Dynamic before, static after, gentle before bed. Comprehensive. Do exercise routines need adjusting too?
Often, yes, especially as you age or if you have health conditions or take certain meds. A key principle is gradual progression. Don't increase your workout intensity or duration by more than about 10% per week.
Avoid sudden big jumps in activity.
Right. And always include a proper warm-up, maybe 10 minutes or more, and a cool down of at least 10-15 minutes involving lighter movement and stretching. Don't just stop abruptly.
And listening to your body, those early signals.
Crucial. Pay attention to unusual fatigue during a workout, slight muscle tightness, maybe tingling. These are whispers from your muscles that they might be nearing their limit or need electrolytes or rest. Pushing through often leads to a full-blown cramp. Modify or stop if you feel these.
What other lifestyle factors can increase risk?
Extreme temperatures, both hot and cold, can stress your system and affect hydration and muscle function. We mentioned medications, diuretics, some blood pressure drugs, statins for some people. Be aware if your cramps started or worsened after starting a new medication.
And even sleep position.
Yeah, that was an interesting point. Sleeping on your stomach with your toes pointed can keep your calf muscles in a shortened position all night, making them prone to cramping. Sleeping tightly curled on your side might compress nerves or blood vessels. Aim for relaxed, neutral positions.
Wow, so many contributing factors. It really drives home that prevention needs a personalized plan.
Exactly. You need to look at your specific situation. Are you an athlete? Over 50? Do you have diabetes? Are you on diuretics? Your prevention strategy needs to address your unique risk factors, drawing on all these elements: hydration, diet, stretching, exercise modification, maybe medication review with your doctor.
It's like creating a comprehensive checklist tailored just for you.
That's a perfect way to put it.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really shifts the perspective on muscle cramps.
They're not just simple twitches or annoyances, are they? They're actually valuable signals from your body, reflecting a complex interplay of factors: minerals, nerves, circulation, hydration, age, activity.
So the main takeaway is, listen to those signals. Don't just dismiss cramps.
Right. Understand your personal risks. Apply these targeted strategies from managing electrolytes to having that emergency stretch protocol ready and building that comprehensive prevention plan. Look beyond the obvious drink more water answer.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How all these tiny details inside you, the minerals, the nerve impulses, the blood flow connect to create something as common yet complex as a muscle cramp.
How does understanding these subtle connections change the way you listen to what your body is telling you? It's about looking at the whole picture, not just treating the symptom in isolation. And this leaves us with a thought to consider. Muscle cramps often aren't just simple problems with simple solutions. They are complex symptoms, and they serve as a reminder that understanding our bodies requires us to look carefully, investigate, and consider the interconnected systems working beneath the surface.
A great reminder to look beyond the obvious. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.